Hello, dear friends, and welcome to another Voices of the Great Beyond. We are blessed to have here on Kardec Radio for the first time messages that were psychophonically received by the renowned medium Chico Xavier, brought to us to nourish our souls. So, how did these messages come about? They came about around the decade of the 50s in the small city of Pedro Leopoldo in Minas Gerais, Brazil, in the very center whose picture we see, the Spiritist Center May, and that is the very table where Chico Xavier and his team received these enlightening messages psychophonically through speaking mediumship. They were first recorded using a tape recorder that was donated to Chico Xavier's mediumistic group, and the messages were then transcribed from spoken mediumship into written form, and recently they were translated into English, and now they are being brought to us for the first time. So, who was involved in the message that we are going to study today? The medium Chico Xavier, to whom we owe much gratitude for his untiring dedication to the dissemination of the promised consoler. May Chico Xavier receive the deepest vibrations of gratitude from the depths of all of our hearts. And who was the communicating spirit who kindly brought the message we are going to study tonight through the speaking mediumship of Chico Xavier? The communicating spirit is Caibar Schutel. Caibar Schutel, as we see in the picture, is a pioneering spiritist. In the year of 1905, in the state of São Paulo, he opened the first spiritist center of that region. And having studied pharmacy as well as having become a politician, he renounced the possibility of fame to become fully devoted to those in greater need, to the point that he was known as the doctor of the poor, since he transcribed or prescribed rather medication to those who could not afford to pay for the medicine that they needed. So he devoted himself to those in greater need at all times. Did he stop there? No, dear friends. He also published the Spiritist newspaper, the Clarim, and he also published the International Magazine of Spiritism, being a true pioneer in understanding that the dissemination of Spiritism was and still is of paramount importance. And he truly understood the relationship we constantly have with both worlds, as he practiced many different types of mediumship himself, being a very devoted medium. So now that we know a little bit of his background, let us hear the message we are going to study tonight for the first time in English.
My friends, may our Lord Jesus Christ maintain love in our hearts and light in our brains, so that our hands remain vigilant and diligent in the good. Those who come to notice the dramas of affliction emerging from the darkness in mediumistic sessions easily understand the importance of human life as a season for redressing and learning. Mainly for us, those who seek in Spiritism an illuminated door of hope for access to the truth, existence on earth has a high value because we are not unaware of the dangers of returning to the rearguard. We feel, from up close, the martyrdom of the discarnates who, allowing themselves to be dragged by the hurricanes of crime and the torment of souls without the physical shell, still desperately cling to illusion. We are witnesses of guilt and remorse that went unpunished before earthly courts, and we note that the immanent, universal, and indefectible justice gives to each spirit the reward of victory or the stigma of defeat, according to the achievements that they built for themselves. We know that it is not worth asking science while undermining the conscience, and we are not unaware that the tragedies and tears which create hell in the dark regions originate invariably from ungoverned and vicious feelings. See then that in drawing closer to the Christ of God, seeking inspiration from Him for our services and ideals, we do nothing more than place our principles in their proper place, because our renewing doctrine is, above all, a roadmap for the improvement of humankind with the sublimation of character. Between the bitter realities that visit us in the temples of exchange and certain predications from educated and enthusiastic companions, but imperfectly aware of the responsibilities that fall to them, let us recall that for almost 20 centuries, verbal Christianity has seen thrones and states pass through the world, organizations and monuments, wars and agreements, houses of charity and sanctuaries of study in all lines of Western civilization, rising in the name of Jesus and returning to the dust from which they were born, only with the benefit of the painful experience, found between shadow and disillusionment. Let us rise up to the faith that redeems us from within. God is the Lord of the universe and nature, but He determines that we be artisans of our own destinies. Let us renew ourselves today in the Son of the Gospel. May each one of us make use of the tool of superior ideas which we already have, and in accordance with the lesson of our divine Master, studied by us tonight, let us work while it is day in preparation for a future of peace. Spiritism is not a sport of intelligence. It is a path of purification to eternal glory. On the top of the mountain which we must climb, the Lord awaits for us as the Son of Life. Let us thus unearth the gem of our soul from the dark gravel of ignorance to reflect His divine light.
So now, dear friends, that we've heard directly from Caibar Schutel's wisdom, let us break down parts of his message
My
together,
friend,
shall we? So, this message is his invitation to us to renew ourselves today. This message can be found in chapter 14 of the book Voices of the Great Beyond. So, his first sublime invitation is for us to be diligent in the good. He starts the message by reminding us that Master Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. Without him, we are unable to reach our highest potential, since he is our model and guide provided to us by God Himself. So he starts by honoring this divine connection in prayer with Master Jesus, inviting us all to commune with Master Jesus, not only in words but also in action. He prays so that you and I, all of us, maintain love in our hearts and light in our brains while being active in the good, and not active once a week or once a month or once a year, but constantly diligent in the good, present in the good. Let us continue our journey with Caibar Schutel now. He continues inviting us to renew ourselves today by telling us to be open to redress and learn. He tells us the following, that in mediumistic sessions, as he experienced himself, it is easy to notice the dramas of affliction, and the reason these afflictions emerge is because many times while incarnated, we forget the fact that life is a school. So he is telling us, let us not await until the moment of our own discarnation or beyond to redress the very issues which we reincarnated to learn. Let us embrace the opportunity to learn and redress these issues today. So, in other words, he's inviting us to not escape reality. He is inviting us to face reality as is. If we have difficulties in certain relationships, let us bless these relationships and renew ourselves, changing the tone of our feelings inside so that we can redress these relationships, be open to learn and progress. And what instruments do we have to progress? He offers us an instrument himself. He offers us Spiritism as an instrument, as a door of hope. Why does he call Spiritism a door of hope? Because it shows us that we are not victims, that we are today reaping what we sowed yesterday, and that it is up to us to plant the new and harvest the new in the present so that we build, construct a better future for ourselves. So, because Spiritism tears apart our own victim card and enlightens us with the truth, earth, and the school of life is of high value to us because we know, we are aware that every day on earth counts towards our progress, and we are also aware of the dangers of not embracing this opportunity to progress. So let us value the knowledge and the light to which we have access today. And he has more to tell us. He invites us to enter the door of truth through the hope that Spiritism brings us as the promised consoler, and avoid clinging to illusion. Anything material, dear friends, is an illusion because it is passing. So it is the means but not the purpose of our lives. Let us hear what Caibar Schutel has to tell us. He tells us that as we see in mediumistic meetings, we know that if we do not value our lives for the purpose of spiritualizing our existence, we may be dragged by the hurricanes of crime and the torments of the soul because we cling to the illusions of life. So let us ask ourselves, what is our priority in life? If our priority in life is to be recognized, to be promoted, to be applauded, to have many different possessions, to have the final word, we may be missing the boat because we didn't reincarnate to check those boxes of social expectations, but rather we reincarnated to achieve moral progress. So, how much have we been investing on our moral progress? This investment on moral progress is the way towards which we may not experience the torments of the souls that are clinged to illusions. Let us continue on this journey with him. Caibar Schutel reminds us that we need to take responsibility for ourselves, knowing that in the school of life, we are dealing with the consequences of our very own actions. What does he have to tell us in this regard? He tells us that in mediumistic meetings and in life, we are witnesses of the guilt and remorse that went unpunished before earthly courts. And we notice that the eminent, universal, and indefectible justice gives to each spirit the reward of victory or the stigma of defeat according to the achievements that we have built for ourselves. So, dear friends, we and nobody else are responsible for our own actions, and each one of our actions will have a consequence. So, what are we co creating for ourselves today? Only we can tell if we are planting the very seeds which we want to later sow. This is a question upon which we have to meditate as we reap the victim card away. Let us continue with Caibar Schutel in this inner journey. Because he is inviting for us to take responsibility for ourselves, we must study ourselves, he says. Let us learn together with him. He tells us that we know that it is not worth asking science while undermining the conscience, and we are not unaware that the tragedies and tears which create hell in the dark regions originate invariably from ungoverned and vicious feelings. So, because what we plant is what we will sow, and our inner world, our feelings and attitudes towards life is what determines, what colors our experiences here in this life and beyond in the spiritual realm, when we will have to come to term with our own conscience. It's important that we understand the realms of our feelings and that we tame our own tendencies. In order for us to tame and change our own tendencies to become more virtuous, we need to know ourselves. In question 919 of the Spirit's book, Kardec asks this very question: how shall we progress spiritually faster? And the answer from the illuminated spirits is know thyself. So let us have the courage to face the truth within by illuminating ourselves through the door of hope, spiritism, and get to know ourselves as we are, so that we may change our tendencies and progress all the more in this life with the instruments that were given to us, dear friends. So, the question for us now, as we prepare to dive within, is from a scale from 0 to 10, how much are we willing to take responsibility for ourselves and let go of the poor me or victim mentality? Because as we do let go of this mentality, we are better able to take charge of our lives and progress. And to guide us in these reflections further, our dear Deise shall continue exploring Caibar Schutel's message to us.
Thank you, dear Carol. We are in a journey today with Caibar Schutel. He is teaching us, as Carol was saying, this journey within. And in the second part of the message, he continues bringing us tools and reminders to strengthen ourselves so we can completely renew ourselves from within. He continues in the message saying, in drawing closer to the Christ of God, seeking inspiration from Him for our service and ideals, we do nothing more than place our principles in their proper place. So, Kaibar is reminding us that we need a guide, we need a model, we need that someone that we look and then can be an example for us because science already proves to us that our brains, we are wired to have that imprinted in our minds. We need to look at others as examples and to absorb that teaching. And on earth, we know that Jesus is the emissary of God sent to guide our path. So he's saying we will only be able to renew ourselves, to strengthen ourselves, if we bring Jesus closest to us. And if we seek his inspirations in his service and ideals. So the more that we read about Jesus, that we study about his life, that we watch documentary series, like, for example, The Chosen, that's when we start to have that example closer. Not the Christ that's in the cross suffering, but the Jesus has in this picture that is extending his hand to us. He is caring, he's loving, he understands us, and as it is in so many books psychographed by Chico Xavier, Jesus' description of this guide and model that is very loving, very kind, very firm too, but that he is our example. And then Kaibar continues saying that because our renewing doctrine, is calling us to Spiritism, is a roadmap for our improvement, the improvement of humankind, and the sublimation of character. So we know through Spiritism that we know the first codification came from Moses. The second codification came from Jesus himself, and Spiritism comes as the promised consoler, this third codification, to show us a roadmap. A roadmap is exactly like the word says, guiding us to improve ourselves as humanity and to sublimate our character. So that is the way for us to go, friends. If we use Spiritism as a roadmap and we have Jesus as our focus ahead, Kaibar saying, let us follow Jesus as our guide and model. In this way, we can never go wrong. He then continues in saying, Let us shift from words to action, from just repeating things to actually feeling them. This is what he tells us. He says, let us recall that for almost 20 centuries of urban Christianity has seen thrones and states pass through the world, organizations and monuments, wars and agreements, houses of charity and sanctuaries of studies, all in lines of Western civilization, rising in the name of Christ. And then doing what? Returning to the dust from which they were born, only with the benefit of painful experience found between shadow and disillusionment. So Caibar's reminding us, friends, we've been called for over now 20 centuries. We have construct institutions that verbally bring the message of the Christ, but that journey within we have not achieved yet because organizations, institutions, countries, leadership comes and goes, but what do we have reaped from it? Yes, that was the benefit, he says, of that painful experience, which is a learning experience from us, but it has only led us from this dichotomy of shadow and disillusionment. So he's saying if we want to renew ourselves, which we all do, to achieve this eternal happiness, not this passing happiness, let us not do like the Pharisees at the time that they said one thing and they turn around and they did exactly the opposite. Caibar's calling us to be coherent, to not only study and repeat, but also to express it through our sentiments, through our thoughts, through our actions. He then continues and says, let's rise up to the faith that redeems us from within. God is the Lord of the universe and nature, but He determines that we are the artisans of our own destiny. So, as Carol brought to us at the beginning of the message, he's reminding us of our responsibility. He's saying, let us take this flashlight and look within. It's so easy, right? That we turn our lights, our flashlights, and point the defects of others. Others are ungrateful, others are harsh, others are unkind, others are unforgiving. But who are we? Oh no. We deserve everything. We deserve to be understood. We deserve to be served. We deserve to be treated like a king or queen. But he's saying we will fail. We've seen in mediumistic meetings, he says, the remorse, the guilt that comes. So he says, remember, we are the masters of our own destiny. What people do, it's on them. But what we do, we will have to answer for it. Not because God will punish us, because God is all loving and merciful, but because our own conscience. So he's saying, remind us we have this responsibility. There's a law of action and reaction. What we do today, we will have to answer for tomorrow. So then, what is the path? How can we get there? He says, let us renew ourselves today in the sun of the gospel. So he's saying, let us take this light, shine within ourselves, in the dark regions of ourselves, through the lens of the gospel. The gospel meaning the words and the teachings of Jesus. He is the one that brought us the guidelines for our lives. And he says, may each one of us make use of this tool of superior ideas, which we already have. We already have these tools. For over 2,000 years, we have known, and Spiritism comes to shed the light of the truth. So he says, in accordance with the lesson of our Divine Master, let us work while it's day in the preparation for a future of peace. What does he mean while it's day? He says, while we are here incarnated, because when we close our eyes to this life, which is only passing, we will really quickly realize that as immortal spirits, life goes on. But what we do today will determine how we will be once this quote unquote day of our lives has closed. So, how do we get there? Is truly by working in our inner self. Once this opportunity, this life closes, this day passes, it's not going to matter how much we have in our bank account, the cars that we have, titles, positions, everything that is external that we have never read in any book that billionaires arrive in the spiritual realm has many religious beliefs have thought for centuries they could buy their place in the spiritual realm. Caibar is saying that doesn't exist. What determines it's what we have from within. So he says, let us work, let us shed this light of the gospel in ourselves. We cannot demand of others what we have not worked in ourselves. So he's saying, instead of turning this to others, let us look within. And then he reminds us Spiritism is not a sport of intelligence, it's a path of purification for our eternal selves. So he's saying, remember, let us apply the Spiritist teachings. Spiritism is not something for intellectuals where we study and we debate and we read about it, and we might sound very intellectual, but our words, our thoughts, our actions, they go in different directions. So he's saying, for this path of purification to our eternal glory, Spiritism is a key. So let us apply these teachings. How? By thinking about ourselves. Let us get rid of thinking of ourselves without this physical body, without this particular name, without this particular title, maybe has a mother, has a father, has a child. Let us look at us as immortal spirits. That's when we're gonna truly be able to see our essence. And he says that's how we would work towards this path of purification. And then he ends this message saying, on the top of the mountain which we might climb. Thank you, Caibar, for reminding us it's a mountain. We have to climb this mountain. What does it require if we're climbing a mountain? A lot of effort, a lot of determination, right? We need resilience because to climb a mountain, there will be storms, there will be attacks that we're going to receive. We might fall, but he says, at the end, at the top of the mountain, the Lord awaits us for us as the sun of life. Yes, friends. What awaits to us is this eternal happiness. God awaits us at the top of the mountain. So let us not give up for the challenges. Yes, we might fall, we might have storms in our lives, but he says, let us continue on. Let us then, he says, unearth this gem of our souls from the dark gravel of ignorance to reflect his divine light. Yes, do you know, friends, that we have God's light within us? Yes, it's in the book, Thought and Life by Emmanuel. He reminds us in many other books, but in the book Thought and Life, Emmanuel says, think of it as we are hidden. We have this light within us, but we need to dig it out like a diamond. We need to go there with the chisel and carve it all out because we have God's light within us. God created us with that. So he says, let your light shine. Remember, you're a child of God. You are unique. You have beautiful qualities. Yes, we still have those dark sides within ourselves, but each one of us, we have this light. So let us unearth it. Let us reflect this divine light. Let us share this divine light with others. Like the music says, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine this light, friends. So, as we wrap up this study tonight, let us take all this information from Caibar to all of us. And in a moment of reflection, let us truly ask ourselves, as spirits, where do we need to renew ourselves? Not externally. It's so easy. We look in the mirror and we can quickly point it out. Oh, we need to renew ourselves here and there, everywhere else, right? But then Kaibar is saying, let us take the lenses and look within. Let us find one, just one. Let us not make a whole list. We can if we want to, but at least one thing that we know we came in this life to renew ourselves. Maybe we need to work in our patience. Maybe we need to be more understanding of other shortcomings. Maybe we need to work in our pride, our vanity. Maybe we need to work in our laziness and push ourselves to work. Maybe we need to work in our power because we want to always have the last word. We always want others to serve us. Let us find that one thing within ourselves. So easy to point that out externally. But he's saying, let us look within. As Carol reminds us, let us study ourselves. And once we find it, Kaibar gave us the recipe. Let us follow Jesus. Let us use the roadmap of Spiritism. Let us have hope. Let us not put ourselves as the victims. And let us truly study and live with our actions what we learn. Friends, that is the recipe by Kaibar. And who is the one who came to show us the pathway? Jesus came. So at any point, as we climb this mountain, which is not a easy mountain, it's pretty steep. Jesus is there. If it's hard, we remember Jesus. We grab on his hand and we say, Jesus, we don't know how we'll get there, but you do. You know the way. So show us the way. And for sure, he will always answer to our prayers. Friends, let us thank Caibar Schutel. Let us thank Chico Xavier for bringing us these beautiful messages and all the spirits who are part of a team because it's a team. Nothing is done by ourselves. The team who was able to bring us these teachings and spiritism into our lives. We're so thankful. And let us reflect on this message, and we'll see you here next week for another program for Voices of the Great Beyond. And in the meantime, stay connected at Kardec Radio because here we're always nourishing our souls.